Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners, my name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. It's Friday, May 22nd, 2020. National Police Chief Council has released statistics that show that recorded crimes amongst the 43 police forces has dropped by 25% over the 4 weeks to May the 10th, compared with the same time frame in 2019. However, the statistics also show a 4% rise in domestic abuse incidents and a 14% rise in assaults against emergency workers, which is hardly surprising when they've added coughing and breathing to the list of what constitutes an assault. And this is evidenced as the National Police Chief Council said that the assaults on emergency workers' growth was largely due to increases in assaults without injury, which may be driven by scenarios such as common assault on staff, otherwise known as coughing. And before you get on my case, I do not agree with purposely coughing at people, at anyone, but surely that would be causing alarm and distress rather than assault. The stats suggest that there's been a reduction in cases of burglary, car theft, assaults, rape and shoplifting, which again is hardly surprising considering most people are and have been on lockdown. More people are at home. Cars are less likely to be left in the car park or away from their home. There's less people on the streets to get into fights and pubs have been closed. There's less people walking around in places where they might be subject to sexual assaults, and shops have been closed. Merseyside Chief Constable Andy Cook, the National Police Chief Council lead for crime operations, said these figures are not a surprise as the public have largely stayed home during the lockdown period. Forces used any spare capacity that they have during lockdown to focus on proactively pursuing criminals, completing complex investigations and reducing violence. Of course, and that's why we see so many more on the streets now than we did before the lockdown. And also why they've had so much time to make TikTok videos and why they've had so much time to do their virtual signalling outside hospitals. I will say that apart from some comments that are cleverly designed to sell the idea the police are getting attacked more and that they're doing more to prevent crime, I wonder how many crimes have been reported during this period of lockdown that have been NFA'd. No further actions. I'm glad that Chief Constable Cook was clear about the reduction being largely due to the lockdown. It makes a nice change from the police trying to take credit over something that they had absolutely no control over. One thing I like to see is that when people are served a misjustice, they don't just give up. They don't let it go and they fight back. Never more so than when people take to educating themselves in order to do that. Anthony Granger's death is something that's been reported on this channel a couple of times. He was shot dead by Manchester police in Cheshire in 2012. A public inquiry concluded that there were catastrophic failings by senior Greater Manchester police officers in the operation. Mr. Granger was sitting in an Audi when he was shot dead by firearms police during a pre-planned police operation on the 3rd of March 2012. Greater Manchester Police said it believed he was planning an armed robbery, but the inquiry heard that no firearms were found either on Mr. Granger or in the car. The public inquiry also found that there was no intelligence to suggest Mr. Granger was armed. Although some recommendations were made through the inquiry to help prevent similar incidents occurring, and there were catastrophic failings, it's been 8 years and 6 police constables still remain under investigation for misconduct by the IOPC over that shooting. Not willing to take this lying down, 36-year-old Gail Granger, Anthony's girlfriend, who changed her surname after he died, has now spent £50,000 on 2 law degrees in order to fight for his justice. Gail, who graduated from an undergraduate law degree at Salford University in 2016 and is now halfway through a master's in criminal justice at the same institution, said, "I've spent 7 years pursuing the police and courts. If the force had just come and apologised and said, we are all human, this happened, but we will make changes, that would be different. How many times have we said that? But unfortunately, I feel like the system is set up for the families to fail in their fight. Without any officer being held accountable, no one will ever learn lessons or feel deterred from acting before thinking about the consequences. So I decided I had to do something myself." Anthony Granger was cleared of any wrongdoing by a jury that took only 40 minutes to come to its conclusion. Gail said he didn't deserve what happened to him by any stretch of the imagination, and the facts that we have to fight for answers really doesn't make the grieving process any easier. I know that if it was the other way round, he would do everything in his power to seek justice for me. He was the most perfect man, perfect friend and father that anyone could have asked for. He deserves to be fought for, and if that means I will spend the rest of my life paying off debt, so be it. Chief Constable Peter Fahey was charged under the Health and Safety at Work Act in Greater Manchester Police, but this was dropped in January 2015. Gale added, "One thing that is clear in society is that we are taught to believe that the police don't make mistakes or act without reason. So when Anthony died, people assumed that the police were acting in good faith and Anthony must have deserved to die, or that he must have given the police good reason to shoot. But that wasn't the case, and really upsetting that it was people's first thoughts. Even worse to think that people who haven't followed the story probably still have that belief." A Home Office spokesperson said the police do a vitally important job, so it's right that they're held to the highest possible standards and subject to rigorous examinations. Yeah. Because that's exactly what we see all the time, isn't it? The police being held to account. Alphabet people across the country are said to be worried about losing what they call an important emblem of LGBT identity and support. And why do you think that is? Because of that damn NHS. You know, the same one that does reassignment surgery, holds gender identity clinics and offers psychiatrists, that doesn't cost them a penny. Damn those NHS bastards. The rainbow flag for innies, outies and in-betweeners was first used in San Francisco over 40 years ago as a symbol of LGBT rights. Now, homes and businesses across the country are displaying traditional 7-colour rainbows to show support for the NHS, but some people are inadvertently using the 6-stripe LGBT pride emblem for the same purpose. Well, I didn't even know there was a difference, and I think that sums up my thoughts on the mentality between LGBT and non-LGBT. I don't see people as different. I see people as, well, just that, people. There should be no segregation of communities. There should be no members of society who get treated any different from the rest. But it seems that many people in these communities, whether it's the LGBT, BAME, Muslim, or any other community that are treated differently, do see the divide and they relish it. One gay man, a 32-year-old account manager, Alex, said, "There are homes on my street with more rainbows than mine." He says a few weeks ago nobody would have looked at a rainbow and thought that's to do with the NHS. It's such a difficult thing to talk about because I try to stay positive and I think the NHS is one of the best things about the UK. But at the same time, I do think it's unfair. What would our rainbow flag be if wider society sees it as something different? Well, maybe the community should have had a symbol that they can copyright and not a symbol based on a natural phenomenon that anyone can use. In August 2019, Plymouth City Bus unveiled a passenger bus covered in 6-colour rainbow to show their appreciation for gay pride. But on Saturday the 16th of May this year, the company tweeted a now viral picture announcing it would now be a rainbow NHS bus. And while some responses were positive, most felt the sudden insulting, ill-conceived and offensive rebranding was erasing their identity. "Our pride flag is not for sale," said one writer. Another simply said, "Thanks for just straight up erasing my identity there." The bus company later apologised for causing offence. I mean, yeah, because we wouldn't want to make anybody cry now, would we? In the north of England, meanwhile, a gay hospital doctor who wanted to remain anonymous said he feels more than happy about the rainbow being used by children, but not by brands. He said, "We gays don't own rainbows." We gays? We gays? Well, that's not very inclusive of you, is it? But the commercialisation of pride and now the NHS is disgraceful, he says, as if it wasn't problematic enough for people to sell things supporting us without donating any money to LGBT causes. They're now jumping on the new trend and pretending we don't exist anymore. You see, you're worried about people pretending that you don't exist, but that's just like you try and pretend that straight folk don't exist, or at least don't matter as much as you do, with your superiority complexes. I don't know. Anything for some attention, I suppose. A police constable in Surrey has been attacked by a group of youths as he was investigating breaches of coronavirus guidelines. The constable was on his own as he was called to West Byfleet Park in Surrey at 7:40 p.m. on Thursday following a report that a number of young males were flouting, I love that word, lockdown restrictions. Surrey police said the officer had been asking why they were out when he was attacked, sustaining minor injuries to his wrist and head. Police say 3 people, 1 adult and 2 juveniles, were arrested and a short time later and taken to custody. Now, I haven't added this story to laugh or mock. In fact, I've added it for completely the opposite reason. I might hate bent police, the ones who do nothing when they should be doing everything to protect and serve, the ones who stand by and allow their colleagues to get away with bad things. But I certainly don't agree with attacking them, or anyone else. People, you, me, we all want our freedoms back. We want to go back out and be left alone, not threatened with bogus fines or arrests, but behaviour like this is not going to help anyone. The government and the police already see us as second-class citizens next to them. They've shown that in abundance, that they're happy to curtail our freedoms for their own gain, and they won't hesitate to bring new acts that cleverly erode our freedoms further. I personally don't like the society we live in now, with police powers to make it a criminal offence for not giving you details under Section 50 of the Police Reform Act, for example, simply because a constable feels butthurt, or making up that someone, somewhere, at some time, might somewhat be upset about something that you have said or done when it doesn't even need someone to actually be alarmed, harassed or distressed. These and many other powers take away our rights in attempts to prevent free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, etc. But I'm kind of used to it. I don't want the police or Prati Patel to bring in more human right eroding powers to beat us down more with. So this kind of thing has got to stop. It ain't big and it ain't clever, and it ain't going to do anyone any good except those who want to control us more. Priti Patel is expected to outline new plans next month, which will be introduced to quarantine international travellers, including returning Brits. The plans could see people refusing to or defying a quarantine face police spot checks and £1,000 fines if they fail to self-isolate on arriving back in the UK. Travellers coming into the country must provide an accommodation address where they will quarantine for 14 days under the measures to guard against a second wave. I wonder how that's going to work with the migrants sneaking in and those being escorted in across the channel. In fact, those very people escorting migrants into the country are the very same ones that will be running and enforcing these quarantine measures. Doesn't that just fill you full of confidence? Travellers will be asked to fill in a form with their contact information upon return to the UK, and health officials will perform spot checks to ensure compliance with the measures, which seems like yet another way for the government to gain your personal information by consent. The regulations are expected to be introduced under the Health Protection Act, but will not come into force until June, while it remains unclear if MPs will vote on the matter. Former Tory leader Sir Ian Duncan-Smith is amongst those opposed to the measures. He said the government needs to rethink this quickly and not go into quarantine. If they got their testing level up, then anybody coming in would be tested and put on the tracking app. Well, that's just as bad. While Steve Baker, the Conservative MP and former chairman of the European Research Group of Tory MPs, said this week he is baffled as to why the idea of quarantine has suddenly surfaced. He said we should be taking every possible measure to open up society and the economy and get things going. Otherwise, the economic and clinical cost is going to be far too high. What we have learnt about the virus means we can shield the vulnerable and respect people's individual choices to behave appropriately so we can open up society as quickly as possible, he said. What do you think on this? I mean, let me know in the comments. It's madness. A misconduct hearing for former Metropolitan Police Special Constable 27-year-old Mohsin Nadeem was held on May the 20th. Mohsin Nadeem of Babakoom Gardens was investigated by the Met Serious Crime Unit after he stole almost £9,000 from a shop he had previously worked at. It was discovered that Nadeem took approximately £8,919 over a 3-month period from a chain department store between June and November 2017. Nadeem pleaded guilty to fraud by abuse of position and was sentenced at Southwark Crown Court to 4 months in prison, suspended for 18 months on Wednesday, August the 14th. He was also ordered to complete 150 hours unpaid work in a 10-day rehabilitation activity. Nadeem resigned from his special constable role on September the 14th, 2018. But his misconduct hearing has now concluded after it was alleged that former Metropolitan Special Constable Nadeem had breached the standards of professional behaviour in relation to discreditable conduct. The panel found that the breach amounted to gross misconduct and decided that had he still been a serving officer, he would have been dismissed without notice. A former senior civilian police worker has been vindicated. Mike Hopkins, who worked for Cleveland Police, believes that he was targeted by police chiefs when he was suspended in May 2011 amid allegations he was leaking information to the media during Operation Sacristy, a multi-million-pound investigation into allegations of corruption within the force. Mr Hopkins was the head of commissioning for the force at the height of the operation, a long-running investigation into allegations of corruption at the force that eventually resulted in the sacking of its Chief Constable Sean Price and his deputy Derek Bonnard. 3 years ago he lost a civil case against the force for bullying and harassment, but he vowed to continue to challenge the way the force dealt with his concerns. But now the IOPC has upheld a complaint from Hopkins about the force getting access to his phone records at the time and failing to disclose the facts to him. I mean, it seems like a minor admission on part of the force, but I suppose any win is always a step forward. Mike said, "I feel Cleveland Police's oppressive behaviour towards me has been unrelenting and is very alarming. I stood up to bullying and corrupt practices and assisted a criminal investigation and sacristy said I should have been commended. Instead, I was subjected to witness intimidation, made compulsory redundant, subject to a covert police investigation which included interrogating my laptop and telephony records, put through a civil case whereby Cleveland Police failed to disclose key evidence, deliberately lied to on numerous occasions by senior officers, and labelled a vexatious complainant. Now you know how we feel. I ask that this course of action towards me is investigated and that the crime number that I was given for witness intimidation and perverting the course of justice is reopened forthwith." Cleveland Police has acknowledged the IOPC's ruling and has started an investigation into Mr Hopkins' complaint. A spokeswoman said Cleveland Police is currently looking at a complaint around disclosure of documents connected to a civil court case concerning a former member of staff. The investigation is at an early stage. You see this? Yeah, I'm talking to you police constables watching this. This is what you should be doing when you witness bullying and corrupt practices yourselves. You're not alone in wanting that kind of behaviour eradicated from the police. Those who step up and step forward will get the respect and backing from the public. And you've got to remember there's a shitload more of us than there is of the police. Stop allowing it to continue by standing idly by and pretending it's not happening. The public will be willing to work with the police if the police could be trusted to do the right thing. But they can't. And that's why the uniform holds absolutely no respect anymore. Think about it. And remember something. You used to be human. You can be again. 3 of West Yorkshire Police's finest are currently the subject of a gross misconduct hearing over their substandard investigation into the death of a 3-year-old boy in Huddersfield in 2016. Detective Chief Inspector Mark Swift, Detective Inspector George Bardell and PC Oliver Scoons failed to conduct a thorough or appropriate inquiry and prepared a report for the coroner which was incomplete or misleading. 3-year-old Riley Siswick was found dead at his home 2 days after being attacked by 27-year-old Carl Campbell, the partner of Riley's mum, Kaylee Siswick. Following a second investigation, Campbell was found guilty of murder and jailed for at least 20 years, while Kaylee Siswick was jailed for 7 years for causing or allowing the death of a child. The IOPC said the allegations, if proven, could be seen as a breach of their duties and responsibilities and of conduct that could discredit the public service or undermine public confidence in policing, any more than it already is. A very big thank you to channel Patreon supporters. Your support is truly appreciated. And that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials, and have a wonderful weekend. Good night, all. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, Hit that subscribe button up the top there if you haven't already. Become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.